All right, we're live.
All right. What's up, guys? Shawn Bowen, Full Circle Investment Group, and wholesalingoutofthebox.com. Welcoming you guys back to another Lunchtime Live. So today, as we talked about, or as the title says, we're talking about goal setting. This is a massive issue for all newbies, and sometimes even guys that are, seasoned, that have been around for a minute. So today we're going to talk about what that looks like from a newbie standpoint to maybe an experienced investor like ourselves that we've been around for quite some time, and different processes and different procedures to keep you accountable weekly, right? So goal setting is a massive piece. And I used to think this was kind of a down thing until I really started paying attention to it, that it really didn't matter. But again, if you don't have a goal set, you have no direction to go towards, right? This goes back kind of like the measurable thing. Start talking about KPIs, measuring certain things. This is part of goal setting. So again, guys, if you're joining us today, let us know where you're coming in from. Click on that link where it says Let StreamYard. Tell us who you are and see who you are so we can post it here. And also remember, guys, during this, it is live. If you have some questions we can try to help you with, please let us know and ask them here live over in the comment section. So let's talk about goal setting. And let's talk about it from a very beginning level, okay? So we'll talk about it from a marketing standpoint to generating leads to getting so many calls out, and then from getting so many calls to going on so many appointments. And guys, remember, in the beginning, this could be a practice for appointment situation, right? If you don't know how to talk to sellers on the phone and you're not comfortable talking with sellers in their homes, then this could be a chance for you to go at these properties and just get the practice, right? If this is not something that you're used to or not comfortable with, it's something that you either have to hire somebody to do or it's something that you have to get better at, okay? The other part of this is tracking those numbers so that you're reaching on and call it a daily to a weekly to a monthly to a quarterly to a biannual to an annual of how you're going to get to your number. A lot of guys that I run into, whether it's new or seasoned, they want to know how to grow their numbers, right? So how do you reverse engineer that? This is the goal setting standpoint. This is what you're doing, is getting these numbers in front of you on a daily read, on whether it's a Google Hangouts or whether it's on a document that you share with your team, that each person has their own goals set every week, for that matter, every day, right? And then how did you reach those goals, or why did you not? What got in your way? So let's talk about from the very beginning. Most people get into this game and they don't have a lot of money, and they don't have a lot of, they have a little bit of time, but they don't have a lot of money, right? And that's the one thing I hear is a lot, Shawn, how can I shadow you? How can I learn from you in order to do this business? And the first thing I tell guys is, how do you plan to set your own goals to follow behind me or our company in order to do what you want to do to implement, or not even, I want to say replicate, but copy and do, okay? So posting all the fancy checks and all that's great. We do wires. I hate getting checks. It's a time suck thing for me. So it's more focused on what are you going to do for your goals. So for the first part of the week, give yourself a lofty goal and then realize what it took to either not hit that or what kept you from hitting it. For example, if you're going to build a list, how are you doing that? Are you going to go to List Source? Are you going to go to Listability and buy that list? And then are you going to either skip trace it, or are you going to mail it, or are you going to drop? Some people are still doing ringless voicemails. What are you going to do? Set that goal and then hit it. Now go another goal on a daily, which is how many calls are you going to get out in a day, right? So we know that in order for us to do a deal, I think we're 334 phone calls to do a deal, right? So the volume would say, if we want to do 4 deals a month, and let's just say they're $10,000 at 40 grand, we know we got to be roughly 1,200 phone calls, right? So this should be the same metric that you guys are trying to measure to understand where you're going, okay? So to focus on your number daily is how many calls did I get out? And what do those calls look like, right? Was it angry, pissed off seller that you spent too much time with, learn how to condense that time. And the next call is a motivated seller. And did you get through all the criteria you needed to in order to set an appointment? Again, practice for appointment. And then from there, going on the appointment and knowing what to look for from a rehab standpoint, and then making the offer based on a Mayo formula or your max allowable offer. And then from there, sending the contract, getting it signed, and then starting. In some cases, you don't need to start title work, but knowing that you got it the right number and now you're trying to sell that deal. So the metrics that the most important are getting your leads, right? Whether that be driving for dollars, whether that be going to build that list from the courthouse, or however you're building your list, right? And this is, I tell people in the beginning, go for the low-hanging fruit. Everybody's got 1, 2, maybe even 3 hours in their day that they can commit that. And if they can't, then can they commit it on the weekend, right? Obviously, family is important. You have to have family time. So where do you take out the time to make this happen? This is a very important piece that in the beginning, a lot of people don't take the time to even sit down and draw it out, right? I'm a visual person and an audible learner. So for me, I need to draw it out and see what it looks like to understand where I'm going in order to get to that goal. And then if I'm tracking it daily, what did I miss? Why did I not get there? Guys, when I started this back 10 years ago, I was a contractor and it was doing my daily contracting business, right? Dealing with subs, going to different job sites, and also having to go and look at homes, right? So I figured if I'm going to go to a job site for a house that I was doing work on, why would I not take the time to research that area and then see if that's something I should drive around the neighborhood and pull those numbers, right? Pull the data on it in order to start moving towards that. I'm building so many leads in the pipeline, to make so many calls, to eventually have so many follow-up, to maybe have good conversations, to ultimately get to a deal, right? And making the offer. So on a daily, this is what I suggest. Can you set yourself a goal for 50 calls in the week? Okay. So let's just break it down in a 7-day scenario. And we'll say 50 divided by 7 days. That would roughly be 7 calls a day, right? So when you dissect this metric, it's a little bit more obtainable to understand. How many hours do you need to spend to get 7 phone calls? That's another piece. Okay. How much time are you spending to go and drive for dollars? Now that you've driven that route, you've got to skip trace. And unfortunately, nowadays you have these driving for dollars apps. There's one new one that we're playing with called Go Knock. And then there's all kinds of them that are out there that pull this data for you, but it does require you to go and drive it. So is that something you're doing to build that list on top of other ways of building list? Okay. So now that you've got you've gone and built your list and now you've got your calls, what does it look like for follow-up? Now, what does your follow-up schedule look like? After 2, maybe 3 weeks, you should have, let's just say, 7 calls, right? That's 50 people within the first week that you tried to get a hold of. And then what's that? 50, that's 200, right? Times 4 is 200. So you got 200 people that you tried to hit in a month's time frame. And then did you reach that goal? If not, what held you back? So now you can know what you need to do for the next month coming up. Either I need to get a lot more conversations going on. I need to do more driving for dollars to acquire more possible leads. This is a metric you're going to start building. This metric and this goal setting piece is what's going to allow you to really drive your business. And you're not doing what I see a lot of people doing is just grabbing a hold of what they see on YouTube and the LinkedIn and any other Facebook groups or member sites that you're part of that are regurgitating a lot of old information, right? For things that are old from way back in the day. That maybe they're working, but if you're not even doing them at all, like, are you tracking it, right? So you hear a lot of guys talking about bandit signs, and we don't do those anymore. And I did them in the beginning. But my biggest one was driving for dollars. And that was, I didn't have a lot of money. And I definitely didn't understand the consequence of not being consistent in marketing in general. So I didn't understand what it took to do that. So I was always out and about driving for sites I was going to for my contracting job. So why would I not start doing this? Because it started to fit into my routine, my daily routine. So by doing that, I was able to start measuring. And guys, I'm telling you, this is where it's at. Set your goal for the week of 3 to 4 minimal. First is how many leads or what kind of lead source am I going to start to hit? Okay. Whatever that is, whether it's skip tracing a list that you bought, whether it's going to the courthouse and pulling information, whether it's driving for dollars. Okay. Now you have a lead source. And now the next part is how many of those people do you contact? So keeping track of that, right? And in the beginning, maybe do like a little ticker on your sheet and you put it in like an Excel or Google Sheets or somewhere. I highly, highly recommend a CRM system, guys. This is stuff that keeps you organized. You're not walking around with 10 to 15 notebooks, because that is a game changer. That was something that really changed us for business. So from there, I've got all my data in one spot. And now for the following week, I'm going to have new people to follow up with. And then I'm going to have new areas to go drive for dollars, to generate new leads, ultimately to just keep building this pipeline. So then if you do this metric for a 30-day, I usually think 90 days is a really good measuring point of seeing what happens in 90 days to understand what I'm truly getting as a response rate on my marketing, what it looks like for how many people I'm contacting. This is very important, right? Once you start making this the norm, when you start to get a little bit more follow-up, you start to get a little bit more leads, maybe you start to get a little bit more traction, you start getting a lot more comfortable. And the one thing that really happens is now you know from your metric that you've seen, if you don't get this many leads from whatever marketing source, that's going to be a problem. If you don't hit so many calls in a week, that's a problem. And then if you don't hit so many offers because you went on so many appointments, this is a problem. This will be trackable, right? So start it on the lowest level, right? And if you're looking for a CRM setup, let us know. You can go to wholesalingoutofthebox.com, go to our tools section, and we'll get you set up with that CRM. With marketing, if you're interested in that as well, we've got a channel to where you can get a letter done online for you. You don't have to touch it. And the response rate, I think we're still floating around between like 3 and 4. Is a really good response rate. So if you want to go old school and go with mail, that's great. There's a lot of people out there now that are using text messaging, and cold calling always works. Okay. So these are the pieces that we were specifically discussing today to talk about the goal setting. How are you and what are you doing to set very minimal goals to try to hit, and then track why or why not did you hit them? And then maybe back that down a little bit on the following week. But all 4 of those being marketing, calls, appointments, to offers with contracts, to ultimately moving forward to getting your first deal, right? We'll get into the whole like how to market and sell and do all the other part. But guys, the beginning of this is the name of the game. You have to be marketing. And no matter what, I don't care what business it is, marketing is the bloodline of your business. If you are not having leads come in, you are dead in the water. And that is with any business. It doesn't matter what it is. You have to constantly market yourself, your service, and your company in order to be able to get a deal, right? So hopefully this was helpful. Again, taking the time today, these lunchtime lives, hopefully these are helping you. Is anybody watching the replay, if you would, please leave us a message. Let us know what your thoughts are. If this is stuff that's working for you, maybe you see other things that you've been doing, you're experienced or you're inexperienced, but share some stuff that you're seeing success with, right? Or maybe you're seeing that help you, or you found a YouTube video and share it in the group. And guys, what we really focus on in this group is to help, okay? This is what this group is here for, and this is what this is meant to be. Come here, learn, use these lunchtime lives and these replays to help you take that step forward and get that first deal. But guys, thanks again for taking the time to watch this. Thank you for hanging out. If you hung out this long, please check us out at wholesalingoutofthebox.com. There's a lot of tools over there. There's a lot of events over there you can check us out on. And looking forward to working with guys. Again, thanks for taking the time to listen to us, and we'll talk to you soon. Later.